morning, Oviedo. I'm Katie.
And I'm Carrie-Lynn.
Today is Tuesday, November 8th, also Election Day.
For the past 16 months, the majority of news coverage has been focused around our two major party candidates for this election cycle.
However, on today's show, we'll spend time on other relevant topics and show that you can discuss this election without it being centered around two people.
Coming up, Patrick explains how the presidency will be decided.
Alex breaks down the ballot for Oviedo residents.
Leanne argues the importance of voting.
And Ashlyn takes us to an eat and greet with the city council candidates.
What more appropriate way to start this broadcast than with your Pledge of Allegiance? Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This election cycle has had quite the effect on our country.
And that effect has not been positive. And many of your experiences have not been ideal.
This year I've kind of seen that it's been a source of division among a lot of people. It's been a source of tension. In previous years, people wanted to vote for their different parties or their different people, but this year it's escalated into more than that, into, people really not liking each other for their political views.
This has caused a lot of hatred between people and a lot of unneeded hatred. People have very biased opinions about each candidate, and there's really nothing much people could do about it, because once they have their opinion, that's basically what they're going to stick with, and they're not going to listen to others.
They tend to say things that they don't mean, and they tend to say things that's very one-sided, and they sometimes don't have the full story of what's actually happening, especially young people, because they believe in the first thing that they see, and it's not good for this election.
Regardless of your political leanings, we want to make sure that you all understand how tonight's race will be decided.
You've probably heard of the phrase Electoral College, but if you're not sure what that means, Patrick Moorhead has you covered.
To decide the President of the United States, it's as simple as everyone going to the polls and the candidate with the most votes wins, right? Well, not necessarily. The presidency is actually decided by what's called the Electoral College. When voters cast their ballot, they aren't actually voting for the president directly. Instead, they are telling their state's electors how they want their votes to be cast. These electors cast their actual votes that decide the presidency in December. Nationwide, there are 538 electors. The state of Florida has 29. So where did the number 538 come from? Well, for that, we have to take a step back and look at the legislature. Remember that there are three branches of the government: the executive branch, which consists of the president and the cabinet; the judicial branch, also known as the Supreme Court, which decides court cases and is the final interpreter of the constitutional law; and the legislative branch, also known as Congress, which is made up of representatives from all over the country who are responsible for writing laws. Congress is what's called a bicameral legislature, meaning it's made up of two chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The House of Representatives is made up of 435 members, each representing population groups from different districts across the country. The state of Florida has 27 representatives. The state with the most representatives is California with 53, and there are 7 states with only 1 representative each, including Alaska, which is the largest state in area, but has the 3rd lowest population. The Senate has 100 members, 2 from each state. Pretty straightforward there. Take 435 members from the House of Representatives, 100 senators, sprinkle in 3 electors for the District of Columbia, and you get a total of 538 electoral votes. Each state gets its number of electors based on the number of House members and senators it has. The candidate that wins the most votes in each state, except for Nebraska and Maine, which are a bit different, wins all the electoral votes from that state. Divide the 538 electoral votes by 2, and you get 269, which means to win a majority, a candidate needs 270 electoral votes. Whew, that's a lot. So why do it this way? Why not just have a straight popular vote where the candidate with the most votes wins? Well, the argument for the Electoral College is that it encourages candidates to appeal to all states over the US, not just large population centers or one area of the country, say the South. It allows a small state a little more clout and prevents large states from controlling the election. James Madison, who would become the 4th president of the United States, suggested that the system of electors would be more effective against possibly destructive factions than a direct democracy. However, it does mean that candidates tend to spend more time in swing states, that is, states that don't lean heavily Democrat or Republican, and have the chance to go in favor of each. On 3 occasions, a candidate lost the popular vote but won the Electoral College, 1876, 1888, and most recently in 2000 when George W. Bush defeated Al Gore with 271 electoral votes to 266. However, Al Gore had about 500,000 more votes than Bush. The election came down to a recount right here in Florida, the largest of the swing states, where Bush won the whole election by a mere 537 votes. So, is the system perfect? No. But does it work fairly well? Yes. Which means, like it or not, that's how it's going to work. For WROR-TV, I'm Senior News Director Patrick Moorhead signing off.
Looking at a sample ballot, you'll see there's way more to decide than just the President of the United States.
Going by what you see on TV or online, you might believe there are only 3 or 4 races to vote on.
For those of you old enough to vote, Alex Petty breaks down some of the down-ballot races and measures you'll see on today's ballot.
There is a lot of focus on the presidential election this year, and for good reason. However, if you look at the ballot for Seminole County, you'll see a plethora of things to decide on. Probably the most well-known race outside of the presidency, this will decide who will join Democrat Bill Nelson as the other senator from Florida. You most likely know of incumbent Marco Rubio, who announced his run for re-election at the last moment after a failed bid for the presidency. This conservative politician touts his desire for smaller government and hope for America's future as important reasons to re-elect him. His Senate opponent is U.S. House Representative Patrick Murphy, who cites his liberal policy of expanding government protections, along with his willingness to work with both sides of the aisle as major reasons to vote for him. Living in Seminole County, or more specifically Florida's 7th District, our choices for Congress are Republican incumbent of more than 20 years, John Mica, and Democrat Stephanie Murphy, a former national security specialist for the U.S. Secretary of Defense, among other positions. With the help of a number of super PACs behind her, Murphy could pose the largest threat to the congressman that he has had in years, especially if Clinton influences turnout and votes.
We'll hear more from Alex throughout the show.
Some of you are 18 and registered to vote, but maybe the divisiveness has discouraged you.
Or living in a country of hundreds of millions, you might think that your vote won't count.
Leanne Figueroa argues why your vote matters.
Good morning, Oviedo High School. I'm here at the Oviedo Aquatic Center where people have lined up to play their part in the polls, but not as many as you think. What makes a democracy is the people's right to have their voices heard. Yet here in America, voter turnout is concerningly low. The 2008 general election produced the highest voter turnout since we sent the first men to the moon, and that was with 4 out of 10 Americans staying home. If the political system affects all Americans, why do so many choose not to participate? The answer may be found in the mechanics of our voting machine. The influence of money and the practice of gerrymandering play large roles in making the average person feel that their vote is insignificant. Being at odds with the majority, such as a Democrat in a Republican state, can also make voters stray from the polls. The general election isn't just about presidential candidates, but the House and Senate as well. How much a president can do depends on how much of his or her party controls the House and Senate. And if the national election isn't motivation enough, you're also selecting who represents you on a local level, including your school board chair, which affects students and teachers alike. Elections exist in order to maintain a government that was made for the people, by the people. If you're old enough, go hit the polls, and if not, encourage others to. Less than 100 years ago, half the U.S. population couldn't express their voice. Voting is a right we fought for, and now is the time to use it. There's strength in numbers, and we can decide what kind of country we want to live in. Reporting from WROR-TV, I'm Leanne Figueroa.
After a quick break, we'll hear more about the down-ballot races from Alex.
And take you to a local event with the city council candidates.
Stay tuned.
Football will be meeting in room 5029 today after school. Art Club will be meeting on the John Courier Field after school. Football will be meeting in room 5029 today after school. Art Club will be meeting on the John Courier Field after school.
This interesting amendment claims to offer increased availability and protections for the use of solar panels here in Florida. However, critics have declared the amendment solely beneficial to utility companies and would only hamper the solar power market. Now the fun one. Amendment 2 would legalize the use of marijuana for medical use via a doctor recommendation. This is actually the second time there has been such a proposal, as a similar amendment was proposed in 2014, but ultimately failed, since, while receiving a majority of votes, did not gain the 60% necessary for a constitutional amendment to be ratified.
One of the difficult parts about casting a ballot is really doing your research. For races at the state and national level, you're pretty much dependent on the media to report on information that'll help you decide.
But with local elections, you have a better opportunity to meet the people who you'll be voting for. And Oviedo Icon hosted an event that did just that, as Ashland Register reports.
About a month ago, one of the candidates knocked on my door, and I said, gee, I don't know anything about these candidates. I've got to do something about it.
Well, I'm here to support the citizens of Oviedo. I think this is a great opportunity for them to see, who's running for their city council and whose ideas they most identify with. It's a crazy political season, so it's hard to make, a choice with everything else going on.
Well, all politics are local, and it's true. It's not just a colloquialism. Who we vote for at the local races in the city council make lots of decisions, not only on how our local government operates, but on how that feeds into the next higher level of government.
It's their world coming up, and we'll just be out in the distance.
The first time I voted, I was a student at FSU, and I voted for the sheriff, who said something really racist in his campaign, and he lost by 7 votes, and my husband and I voted against him, and that really made an impact on the ability to register to vote. Go vote on a local election and every election possible to get out your vote and do it, because it really makes a difference in just the number of votes. Just, it could be 5 votes, 6 votes, 7 votes, but that made a first impression on me.
The Oviedo Townhouse has been a mainstay in Oviedo for over 60 years, which just goes to show voters that to make decisions about the future, you have to take a trip to the past. For WROR-TV, I'm Ashland Register.
As you are at Oviedo High School, chances are most of you live in the city of Oviedo. And if you do, then you have your own local elections you can participate in. Along with deciding whether or not to fund a new police station and renovate the public safety complex, you also get to decide 2 of the people who will be on Oviedo's City Council. Running for Group 3 are Chris Cilio, who promises to represent the past, present, and future of Oviedo with nature preservation, controlled development, and support for small businesses, among other things. Bob Pollock, a native Floridian who strives for bettering Oviedo for families. Jack Manion, a former prosecutor who plans primarily to focus on modernizing the city, making it more fiscally efficient, and keeping it safe. And Tim Beamer, who wishes to keep the history and national environment preserved as the city expands. Meanwhile, those running for Group 4 are Megan Sladek, who plans to improve roads, ensure safety, and create manageable growth without increasing the city's budget. Tommy Mitten, a college administrator who asks for more events for the Cultural Center, support for small businesses, affordable housing, and working with other communities. And Daryl Lopez, with many years of community service and a great focus on traffic, taxes, and the new businesses. That's a lot of people to choose from, and it may seem like they all blur together. But it's in these local elections where you face the greatest impact and have the greatest voice. While there are certainly more flashy elections going on, These smaller elections matter, and it's important to have a voice in these decisions, as it's here where the government will have the most notable impact. So, if you can vote today, look into some of the down ballot races and make your decision. It will make a difference. I'm Alex Petty for WROR-TV. Have a great day.
You're never too young to keep up with what's going on in the government, whether it be local or national. That's all for today's broadcast.
We want to let you know that all announcements can be found on the scrolling PowerPoint on channel 54 or on Twitter at AttentionOHS. I'm Carrie-Lynn.
And I'm Kadi, signing off.